Editing the text in your template is fairly straightforward. You simply click on any of the text and just start typing, but I want to encourage you to think beyond just swapping out what the placeholder words are that are in there. Templates are a starting point, so not a fixed structure. So you're more than welcome to duplicate any of the sections, add or remove any of the sections, and mold it to what you need in your business. So obviously if you don't have 3 services and you only have the 2, then you can certainly remove or even add in a 4th service if that's what you're needing. To edit the text, just click on the box that we've already aligned in here. You'll see that when I click in here, it will either say heading, subheading, and sometimes you'll see one that will say a paragraph text. If you're needing to duplicate any of the sections, click on these 2 squares here and it will duplicate it down, and you can move them around by clicking and dragging them in the order that you need. Always making sure that you're also checking the mobile layout mode for this. If you need to change the font size, again, click on the text box and you'll see here on the right hand side it says font size. 1 rem is equivalent to about 16 pixels. So you can change it into pixels if that's what you're needing to do. And then we have the font weight, which changes based on what you need. Line height is the space in between each of the lines of text. Text transform, you've got uppercase, lowercase, or capitalized, so each of the words has a capital letter. Letter spacing is the space in between each individual letter. And then we've got the color settings here as well. You can also change the font style through here as well. You'll see that changing it to the heading font is what I've set it in the typography settings up the top. Styles, if you're needing to add in padding or a margin, so padding would be within the text box, and then margin is what is outside of the text box here. You can also add a border to your text box, and you can either have a top border, bottom border, or the side ones. If you want all 4, you can keep it linked. If you don't want one of these, then you unlink it and place in the pixel width that you're wanting for that just one side, or top or bottom. So you can see here in this demonstration, you change this color, and then you can change the color by clicking on the color swatch, clicking out, and it's now white. You can also add animations to any of your blocks as well by clicking on the animations option here. There's a series of different ones that you can choose from. You can also do these to any of the blocks really, your buttons, images. If you're wanting to remove it, then you just click none. And also if you're wanting to add in a shadow to the box, whether it's for your image or a text box, again, scroll down to the bottom and into styles, and you can add a shadow onto the box. I'll show you an example with an image. It might be a bit easier to see. So we've got box shadow here, and you can see now that it's added that grey shadow. If you're wanting the radius of it to stretch further out, then you increase the blur and you can decrease the spread. You can also change the color if you're finding that it's a bit harsh and you just want it that little bit lighter, then you can move it up like that too. And now that's got a bit of a shadow on it. When you have columns like this, if you're finding that because the content of your columns isn't the same length and that these 3 may, as you can see, are all different levels, if you're wanting everything to be pushed up to the top of the column, you click in the column settings, so you can see it's highlighted the purple now, and in content spacing you say to the left and you see everything's moved up, and as long as you have it moved to the left in all of the columns, then everything will sit flush to the top like that. You can also say that you want space around it, so it'll spread them out further. Space evenly, space in between, which means the top element is pushed to the top and the bottom element is pushed to the bottom. You can also say whether you're wanting this to be the same for mobile layout or not. So if I was to go into mobile layout, you can have different settings within mobile layout to what it is to the desktop if it's not laying the same way that you're wanting it to. You can also change the text size that's on mobile to be different to what's showing on desktop as well. So in this case, technically this heading should be bigger than the subheadings. So if you're wanting to make these subheadings smaller, then you can come in here and say that it'd be 1.5, but on the desktop, it'll still stay as 1.7. So now their subheadings are technically smaller than what I would class as a heading 2, and this is a heading 3. When it comes to spacing, we use what's called margins and paddings. So I did go over this in another tutorial, but I'll show you again here quickly. So in the Styles tab of any of the elements, if you click in here under margins and paddings, margins is the space that is outside of the line, and then padding is what's within the line. So for example, if I was to put in 60 on the margin, it's pushing a space in between the heading element and the column border. If I zero it back, and then if I was to put the amount within the box inside, it's now made that space or that padding within the element rather than outside of the element. So if I was wanting to create a bit more of a space between the button and the text that's above it, I usually work down when I add in margins so that I'll create the space between the elements, as you can see here on the lower side, so that each of them has 10 between. Most of this will already be done for you and laid out correctly for both mobile and desktop versions, so you won't need to do it, but it's just if you're adding new elements in and you're finding it's not sitting properly, you may need to come into the style section and adjust these margins and paddings that are in here. So now we can look at how to change the images that are on the templates. Again, we'll be working either in the section or the row. So for this example, you can see here that if I was to click on the background, most of the row is pushed right to the edges. So when I come into general and scroll down, I can see that there's a link in here. So this tells me that the image that's in the background is set within that row background, not the section background. So if you want to change that, then you come in here and click on the image icon that's to the right hand side, add in your image, and you can either change it, have it kept on parallax, which means that it stays as you scroll, or say full center, which gives you the whole image here. If you're wanting to add that fade in so that you can see text easier, then you can change it from light, half, or heavy fade. And as mentioned earlier, for the color of the fade, then you come into the color tab and change it to what you need it to be. So if I was to change it to green, then it would be like that. Most of the time you'll have it as a black overlay though. For images that are in the orange elements, so the image elements here, the size of the image that you upload is how it will fit into the box here. So if you had for this one example, let me show you. So for this one, for example, the width and the height has stayed the same, and even if the screen was brought in and out, it would still keep the entire image within the box. The whole thing would show. Whereas something like this that's set as the image is set as a background of a column, if I was to bring my screen in and out, the width of the image actually changes, if you can see there. So that's how you get it to move with it. Whereas if I was to change the width of my screen for this section, that whole image ratio stays the same. So to change the images, again, clicking on the element and changing the link here, or if it's set as a background and you don't want it to be like that, you do just want a full image here, you would delete this out and then add in an image element to that column. The last thing that you'll probably be changing is your heading section up the top, and there will be a separate tutorial for that, so make sure you go and check that one out. It's a little bit more in detail, so I Won't make this one too long with that, but click on to the next tutorial and you'll be able to find out how to change your logo and set up the navigation, and I'll explain the differences in the menu navigations between your website pages and what you need to do in the funnel page navigations as well. So I hope this tutorial has been helpful for you, and make sure that you take some notes down and have a little play around with it. You can always click the back button or just don't press save and exit out of the screen if you've made a mistake, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.